Welcome back to the Unfiltered Sports Weekly. I'm the Beebs.
I'm the Cab.
St. Joe and the Hizzy.
Welcome back to the show, fellas. Good to see you.
It's
Glad
always
glad
good.
you're here. St.
Glad to
Joe
be
just
seen.
came back from another vacation.
I just flew back from Boston, and boy, are my arms tired.
Oh my gosh! I don't even know
Love
why
it.
I laughed.
That is the
That was
kind. That is the kind of St. Joe you're gonna get all night.
here we go. All right, so
That's it.
uh, St. Joe, you went to
Oh boy, here we go. It's breaking news. Breaking news.
breaking news. The Braves scored a run. Yeah. Okay.
That's what's gonna happen every time you tell a fucking Beebs joke like that.
Oh great. Hey, can I tell you the worst kept secret ever that happened in sports this week?
I'm sure.
Sure.
You don't know what it is?
Scotty Scheffler won the Masters.
Won the Masters.
Oh no, Kalen Clark got drafted first.
Yeah, by the Indiana Fever.
Yeah, I bet you the Vegas odds on that were shit.
Yeah, I just saw a post by the Babylon Bee. Now I know we're not supposed to mention people but the post was hilarious. It says Caitlin Clark breaks NBA record for for largest contract ever with her four-digit salary.
funny that you bring that up. So this is actually funny that you bring that. So I actually looked. It was one of the things I'm like, let me just see what the top 8 players make in the WNBA.
Well,
And their
top person,
salaries
like,
will range anywhere from 70,000 to, I think the top player makes $76,000.
Who's the guy in the NBA that just got fined for waving at the ref? I don't know. Whoever he is, he got fined $100,000, which is more than any of those bitches make.
Well, that's not true. Top highest paid
Someone makes 200,000.
contract in the WNBA, I think, is like maybe $2 million.
Is it Brianna? It's got to be Brianna Stewart. I think it was 200,000 a year.
Okay, 5 highest paid women's basketball players. $234,000 for Diana Taurasi.
Okay.
Number 4 was, I can't even pronounce her name, 241,000. But you get the idea. It's not a lot. If we go to number 1, let's just go to number 1. Where is it? Number 1 was Jackie Young at 252,000. Who's the highest paid NBA player?
Brittany Griner.
No, NBA.
Oh, NBA?
Yeah.
They all make the same because of the CBA, right?
Well, right now it's Steph Curry with $51 million a year for his $215 million 4-year contract.
I think that this is the first time in sports talk history that anybody is reporting on the fucking WNBA.
Well, there is a little bit of a discrepancy there. I mean, I can say, okay, should in this case, yes, do they deserve to be paid a little bit more? Sure.
And all the players are complaining about it. Of course, they're complaining about it. They're fucking women.
Oh,
everybody.
boy.
Well, on top of that, doesn't everybody want to make more money?
Sure.
I mean, but here's the question, right?
Don't give them a reason to complain, though. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
I think it comes down to entertainment value is what we're talking about here.
Yeah, because there are people on SportsCenter that get asked the question. They get asked the question, why don't the WNBA players make as much as the NBA players? And all those people on SportsCenter have to sit there and act like they don't know the fucking answer.
Oh, we all know the answer. Nobody
exactly.
Yeah, no one goes to the fucking games.
Exactly.
Sell some fucking tickets.
Exactly. That's it. That's 100% the reason. It's entertainment value.
When the United States women's soccer team sued for equal pay with the men's soccer team, U.S. men's soccer team, everybody was like chuckling, like this can't be real, right? Like if you check the revenues from the World Cup for a U.S. men's soccer team, it's like 10 times the amount. that the U.S. women and the women win the World Cup, and the men don't, and the men still pull in 10 times as much money. So I mean, like the conversation.
That should tell you everything you need to know, right? Fucking there.
Right.
You know, now I'm not trying to get us. I'm not trying to get us picketed by women. What I'm trying to get women to do is be fucking realistic.
Right.
Okay,
right.
It is what it is. Sorry.
Yeah. And we had this conversation that I think the closest sport that we found is probably like tennis, is where maybe they're comparable in winnings. Golf maybe is getting there where LPGA, LGBTQ, PGA Tour, whatever it is now, is getting close. But
is it?
Tennis is probably the most.
How close is the LPGA getting to?
Well, let's put it this way: Scotty Scheffler has made $12.5 million in the last 35 days.
Mm-hmm. I saw that article too. Yeah,
and that means his caddy has made $1.2 million.
Yeah, what's the LPGA? What's the LPGA earn? I mean,
is Nancy Lopez still winning that?
No.
Is she
makes a hell of a set of clubs, though.
I'll tell you a sport that's better to watch the women than the men. Fucking beach volleyball.
There you go. Yes,
that's what I'm talking about. Now, bring on the misogynistic fucking accusations. Yeah. I don't give a fuck. I'm a red-blooded American male.
I'll watch Kerry Walsh spike a ball all day long.
Yeah, I don't care that. No, I'm not gonna say that. But and that is the first time in the history of this program I bit my tongue. Okay, that's the first time in the history of this program. But I would say that the money's probably comparable in tennis, wouldn't you?
Yeah, tennis I think is probably the most.
It might be the most popular women's sport.
It's got to be the most comparable. Bowling, maybe bowling.
I thought we decided bowling was a game.
Oh boy, did we? Okay, all right.
You know,
all right.
I don't know.
All right.
Beebs, are you reading the ebook?
Well, no, I looked up the LPGA earnings because I was like this, but it does look like if you are an LPGA player, that you can earn quite a bit of money. I mean, if you win.
Yeah. If you win a tournament, you can win $1 million.
Well, if you win anything, except for the WNBA championship, you can make a shitload of money.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? But you can't win something that they don't have. See, this is the way economics works, people. Okay, it's supply and demand. All right? You don't supply a good product, and the demand for it isn't there. So why is it still there? I don't know. To keep women from complaining about yet another thing. Oh, I'm on fire tonight.
You are, yeah, right off the bat. But St. Joe, I mean, you brought it up.
Speaking about women.
Oh,
did you see what Rory McIlroy said this week? This is some drama for you.
He is a bitch. He's being a bitch.
This is the drama right off the bat. Let's just get it out here. This is the drama that I have. I don't know if you guys have heard this, but this is the drama that I have of the show right here. And I'm not sure that you guys have heard this, but I heard.
Well, spit it the fuck out.
Let me put a ball in my mouth, because that's what Rory's about to do. Is he's about to put a couple live balls in his mouth.
Yeah, about 850 million of them.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
So that's what the rumor is, that he is going to be in a partnership or part ownership with Liv, and go there for $850 million. Now, let me tell you. If he does that,
he's a sellout.
He is going to be eating a load of shit pie because of everything that he said.
That's a great visual.
If he goes, he's a sellout. I mean, that Rory McIlroy, if he does that, I'll forever hate him. Like,
oh, there'll be a ton of people that
he stood on his soapbox for so long.
Yeah.
About Live Golf, and if he takes their money and goes with it, I'm going to be like, dude, you should have just kept your mouth shut and just took the money.
Well, but for $850 million, I don't care what people say about
I know, but I mean, I get it. It's a lot of money, but I'm just. What
if they call my mama a whore?
Is she
$850 million?
Is she?
I mean,
Well, I mean, here's the other question.
That's
though.
not nice.
Maybe he feels comfortable doing it now because isn't the PGA and Live they're combining anyway?
I mean,
is that right? Aren't they getting ready to like? Isn't that what the news was last year? Is that Live and the PGA Tour were gonna strike up some sort of agreement? And
then they got the
combine?
Tiger Tour coming.
Right.
Let's talking about Tiger. Boy, did he shit.
Hey, he finished. He finished. The tournament.
Before you get on fucking Tiger's nuts, let me explain something to you. This motherfucker has had multiple surgeries. He got in a fucking car wreck where his leg probably should have been amputated. Motherfucker still made the fucking cut. And everybody, including you, going into Saturday, thought he had a shot because he was only 6 back.
I didn't think he had a shot on Saturday. Not a chance. I didn't think he was going to make the cut.
After he bogeyed the first few holes, I was like, okay, it's over.
Until
there was a glimmer, I thought of a glimmer. I'll admit, I was like, well, he's only 6 back. I mean, something could happen.
Guess who holds the record for most consecutive cuts made at the Masters?
Tiger Woods.
Tiger Woods.
And he played pretty good in the wind, in the bad weather on
Friday. On Friday,
yeah. So I mean, like he deserves that. I mean, he played
that plus 10 round was awesome.
I would love to see you out there shoot less than plus 30.
I like the quote from last week where he says, he can tell you where to hit it from anywhere in the course. Well, let me guess you what? He found anywhere on the course.
It's easy to sit here and after he, what did he finish? Plus 15? It's easy to sit here and make fun of the dude, but the dude, I mean, the motherfucker could barely walk. He had to switch his swing to go all upper body, and do that for 72 holes. Okay, I would love to see you do it.
No, I don't want to do it. Speaking of not doing something,
hey, I mean, if you're gonna pay for it, I'll go do it. I'd love to go play that course. Are you kidding me?
Listen, speaking of not doing something, let me tell you something that I'm never going to do that I witnessed this weekend.
Marathon?
My wife, I'm going to give a big shout out to her, and you guys know what happened. She just ran. The reason that I was in Boston is she just ran her first Boston Marathon, and I can't say enough about how proud I am of her. She worked 17 marathons she ran over the last 10 or 11 years, let's say, in order to qualify to get there. And I watched her run it yesterday. And to be there and watch 36,000 plus people run a marathon was absolutely phenomenal. Even if you're not a runner and you've never, the fact of the event itself was just incredible. I mean, the atmosphere, and I say this in the most, I guess, patriotic way because it was Patriots Day, is that being there, being in the actual spot, in some of the places where some idiot person decided to steal the joy by dropping backpacks and bombing on the day in 2014. Was it 2014 already? Wow, that's crazy. I can't even fathom the thought that somebody would even do that. Being there, it was just unbelievable. But to see people, I mean, I witnessed like people. It was hot. For running, it was hot. So it was in the 60s, mid 60s, which is hot for running. And there were people that were right at mile 26. We were there. They were, giving all they could, and they were about ready to pass out. And we saw people like firemen carrying people to get them across the finish line. I mean, that is just a runner's thing. They're not going to let them do it. It was crazy to see people cramping up, and they're like, get on my shoulder. I'll carry you across. I'll do whatever I can. It's just an unbelievable thing to do. So props to anybody that happens to be listening to this that ran the marathon. It was great. Congratulations. And if you ever get a chance, that weekend was incredible. I went to the Red Sox game. First time I've ever been to Fenway. That park was amazing. That park is,
it's old, but it's amazing.
Oh my God. It doesn't matter. The beer and a dog. Beer and a dog, great.
How much did it cost you? That's what I want to know.
Oh, beer and a dog, I think was $26.
That's Fenway Park for you,
know
baby.
what? Hey, it's all right. Yep. And we watched standing there singing Take Me Out to the Ball Game, and then at the end of the 7th they sing Sweet Caroline. I don't care. It's annoying, but it is kind of cool to see everybody singing it. Kind of a neat thing.
Who are they playing? Cleveland?
They played the Angels. And we watched first inning, it was 4-0. They just jacked a couple of home runs. It was great. Second inning, it was 7-2 at the end of second inning.
That sounds like
it was a great game
this year. Yeah.
Oh, it was fun. It was fun.
I've heard that the Boston Marathon is one of the biggest sporting events in the world.
It's great. So it's 650,000 people live in Boston. So I went on a little old trolley tour, learned a whole bunch of stuff because I think that's the best thing, the hop on, hop off tour or whatever. I think that's the best way to get any history about any city in the world. And it was great. And so I learned that. But with everybody there, I got to think that there was probably 1.5 million, maybe close to 2 million people there just for the weekend. And it was crazy. Gronk was there. We saw Gronk. Nice. There was a new Dick's Sports opening up, and we just happened to be there. And he walked right by us. Got a great picture of him. That guy's a giant. That was cool. He was at the finish line. They showed a picture of him. He was almost going to spike the trophy, and they're like, no, because he's just an idiot. But it was fun. Yeah, it's just a cool thing. That's just the coolest thing in the world, man.
Did your boy go with you?
Yeah. We had 10 people there, all together cheering on my wife, which was great. And then we had a bunch of other people that we knew that we were tracking and doing everything. Even Kev got into the tracking. It's a cool little app.
Yeah, me and the soon-to-be world-famous wife were tracking your wife.
Yeah,
and I think we caught up to her. She was about mile 20.
Yeah,
and it's a really cool tracking app that you can check it out. We learned how to use it when my son ran the Gate River Run here. And,
that's
cool.
That's
cool.
And,
it's just
you can track them by. Yeah, you can actually the Boston Marathon. Here, that was weird. Here you need to have their number, but there you could track them by last name.
Yep, you just searched it, and if you knew somebody was there, so
yeah,
it was cool, man. It was such a, and then everybody there was, they're all high fiving each other. It was just such a great atmosphere, so it was fun. And then flying home today. And everybody in the airport, they're all still, on that runner's high of everything. So it was really fun. It was really cool.
What was the winner American?
No.
He was from Kenya?
Yes. Ethiopia, I think. Yeah. Ethiopia. He liked to run in the bush.
Ethiopia.
Yeah, I think it's Ethiopian. The runner. Third, the male winner
must have been hungry.
So was a new person this time. The female winner has won it 2 times in a row, which is crazy.
Did they let the chicks start first?
Yes. I think the women get a little bit of a.
Do they get a bonus if they finish before the men?
They get I think there is an equalizer type thing or something like that, but they get some good money winning either way. So it's kind of neat, but
yeah, they get the same amount as the men.
Actually, the men started first. Because the guy, there was nobody anywhere close to. He had a 2.5 minute lead.
Do the women make as much as the men?
I think the payouts are for. I think it is the same for each individual person. I believe it is the same.
That's bullshit.
Yeah, and it's pretty good money. So I don't know the exact payout, but I think it is pretty good. Okay. But they're sponsored anyway. They're pro athletes.
I think we should have. I mean, we'll get your experience, but I think we should have Tara on the program to talk about what it's like during the race.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
yeah,
because I would have fucking paid money to see your fat ass run 26.2 miles.
Not gonna happen. I might have died. I mean, it is unbelievable.
If you're running, you can't walk in the I mean, you can't like in the Boston marathons. Those people are actually runners. They have to.
Yeah, you have to qualify for that shit.
Right. And
but
so,
you know what? It's funny that you
like
say
a walk
that,
run or anything like that. So,
but it is funny that you say that though, because there is all shapes and sizes. Even though that you do have to qualify for this one, you're like, man, that guy does not look like a runner. And then they're out there, and I'm like, how did that dude qualify? And it's like
that runs.
It's crazy, man, because it is pretty wild. But the most impressive thing to me that I'm like, you even get a little choked up to watch these people are the para athletes. See the guy with no arms, no legs. He's got the
some guy pushing him.
I don't know what you call them. But
bikes or whatever they are.
Well, the bikes were cool, but he's got the like the
legs,
fake legs, but the blades.
Sure,
He's running on the blades, and there was a guy running on blades with no arms, and he's just chucking along, and I'm like, this is just insane. I mean, to me, that is just wild, and for them to do that for 26 miles, just crazy. But
so, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Did you go to the bar after the game on Yawkey Way?
What was the name of the bar?
Oh, there's multiple.
Yeah, we walked down the main strip, where there was the one outside of, there's like a big Fenway picture or whatever, and then we walked down that big strip. But we went into a bar. I couldn't tell you what it is, but the band was really good.
That's like saying, I mean, hey, did you go to a bar in Boston? I mean, the drunkest city in the country.
On game day, absolutely on Red Sox game day.
Yeah,
one place that we just happened to stumble upon it because my wife ran a 5K on Saturday, and we were walking back and we found Cheers.
Oh yeah,
so we ate at Cheers, which was fun. So that was really fun, and then we went into another place too, which was kind of semi-famous, where people are like, you got to go here. We went to some Irish bar, which was fun too, and we're like, okay, great. But it was awesome. But I do have to tell you this. So we went on the trolley tour, right? And they do this thing, and JFK obviously is a huge part of Boston, and we learned a lot about JFK. And we did this trolley thing, and this guy, he was called Papa Jim. Not giving him a good review because he took his job very, very seriously, right? And he's like, look, you paid for this, other paid for this, so when you're talking, please keep your library voices. And Elijah's got his AirPods in, and he's like, Dad, where are we going to eat? And he's like, is everybody ready? I need to start it over now. And I'm like, oh boy, this guy. So we're like, yeah. So he's telling us all this stuff about JFK, and he had, here's room apartment 122, where he just had to have his mailing address because that he had to have a residency here in order to have a place in order to run for presidency, and blah, 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 and all this stuff. And it just kept coming up. And then he tried to imitate JFK, and I start laughing, and I went, Elijah, that wasn't very good, and he's like, okay, again with the chatter. And I'm like, okay. And we started going, and I'm like, okay. And then we hopped off the bus, and I said, man, I don't think that guy would really want to hear my JFK joke. And I told it to my father-in-law, and he goes, well, I'll hear it. And I said, all right. I said, you know what JFK, what somebody said to JFK once he wanted to run for presidency? Well, you know what JFK's response was? I said, well, I'll take a shot. It's not good. I know. Kev likes it though. Kev's gonna remake that into a better joke somehow.
Somehow, yeah.
It's good.
Well,
that joke would piss off all the right people.
Yeah.
See, you could tell it because you're Catholic. I mean,
I don't know about that job. It might make me lose my mind.
Ask Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah,
I need this job like I need a hole in the head.
Yeah. What's the last thing that went through Abe Lincoln's head before he died?
A bullet. This show sucks. I need to see this show like I need another hole in the head.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we brought up the Masters for a minute to let Scott, rail on Tiger. But how about Scotty Scheffler, fellas?
He did good.
Yeah.
Scotty Scheffler is a good golfer.
He's on a run. I know that his firstborn was just born, or is in the what is the word? He's in the process of being born. Whatever. He didn't know whether it would be a boy or a girl, but that was like the thing they reported on every day. It was like Scheffler's like, oh, if my wife goes into labor, I'm just going to leave.
She's actually not due for like 2 weeks.
Right. So it wasn't even like a real story. It's just something they used to pump him up. But the guy is kind of making golf boring.
Well, it's because he's so good.
Well, I mean, a couple of, I think previous to this, yeah, but there's a couple of storylines that came out of this Masters to keep an eye on. Okay. Number one, how far can Scheffler take it? He's consistently gotten better and better and better and better and better. World number one now. This is his second major, third.
Yeah. The dude closes like a freight train.
He's the only back-to-back Players champion.
Right.
So and nobody has won it 3 times. Yeah.
Well, in the Players Championship, I think. Let me talk about that for a minute. I think he kind of lucked into the Players Championship. Now, don't get me wrong. On the last day, he played really well in order to get
his score was lower than everybody else's.
It was, but I mean, I think that he.
So what you're saying is he didn't win.
Somebody else.
The other guy lost.
Correct.
We've had this conversation.
Correct. I mean, I think that he played extremely well. Don't get me wrong.
Do you know who didn't lose?
Scotty Scheffler.
The Florida State Seminoles all fucking year. They didn't lose all fucking year.
Oh boy.
I'm glad you brought that up.
Every podcast. It's going to come up every podcast. Yeah. It's the 2000 world. It's the Atlanta Braves world champion. It's all over again.
By the way, real quick, let's pause for station identification. We are live on YouTube tonight, so if you're chiming in and watching us, why don't you drop a line in the comments and say hello, and all this. Maybe ask a question. We're talking about the Masters now. It's a pretty big golf tournament that's held once a year, typically around the Easter, but this year they said, we're done with that religious shit. So we're gonna have it 2 weeks after Easter. Sorry, beeps. And but
me and St. Joe talked about this. Easter's not on the same day every year.
No.
See, that's some bullshit, and I'll tell you why. Is because they should do everything like the Masters. The Masters is the only major golf tournament that's played in the same fucking spot. All the other ones move. The PGA moves. The U.S. Open is in a different, fucked up course every fucking year, like Shinnecock, and Bethpage Black and these fucked up courses. When you say Pebble Beach is easy, I mean that's saying something about the USGA. They're like, okay, who can we fuck with this year? What I'm saying? We want a final +2.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Masters, the storylines that I think that come through here, I think we saw a really, really, really good young golfer in that Ludwig Oberg guy, who hails from Sweden.
Yeah, he has quite a swing.
Yeah, I think we found that guy. I was glad to see Max Homa play good.
Yeah,
Max Homa is a good golfer.
Yeah,
I thought he'd hang in there until he hit the ball in the water or whatever.
Yeah,
it was that he did.
Oberg hit in the water at 11. Yeah. But I was really glad to see that Bryson DeChambeau fucked that guy.
Why?
Him because
why don't you like DeChambeau?
Yeah, because he's a jerk fuck.
Now that's an interesting story that you don't like it. I think that it's amazing from what he did to 3D print some clubs and then get them approved and then say, "Here's what I'm going to do." I mean, I think it's been pretty impressive. For the first 2 days, he did amazing.
Okay.
And that guy can play the course.
So I'm going to tell you, I do not think that guy's ever going to be able to win the Masters, and here's the reason why: is he's not creative enough. He has to be mechanical, which means he has to do the same routine every shot. And the Masters requires you to do certain things that he's not as good as the other golfers at. So his swing's a little bit too mechanical to, hey, I'm going to hit this bomb out of the pine straw through the trees and save my golf round. Like, he couldn't do that, and that's why he lost. And he's never been able to do that. Like, he's won some tournaments from hole 1 to hole 72 simply because it sets up good for the way he plays. But that course does not set up for the way he plays.
Yeah, he just doesn't have the touch. Is that what you're saying around the green?
No, I'm just like, he's not creative enough around the golf course. A golf course for him, if he wants to win, has to set up to where he can just hit the thing as hard as he can. And as long as he hits it straight, he's gonna be, it's gonna be driver wedge into every hole, kind of like Tiger played the Masters back when he won in '97. Yeah. But the course doesn't play that way anymore. You can't play the course that way anymore because they changed the entire course, and they changed it every 4 or 5 years to make it even more difficult. Yeah. So like he literally has to be able to survive a mistake.
I got you.
And even in that 97 victory that Tiger Woods had, he had to survive several mistakes that he made. He shot a 40 on the first
opening nine,
and he still broke the record for lowest score, ever at the Masters for the time. But like, he can
it's still the record. It just was tied by Jordan Spieth.
Right. So my point in saying all that is the people who win that tournament, the people who go and win the Masters, they have got to be able to, one, control the ball from multiple stances, from multiple locations. They have to be able to see it, and they have to be able to be creative. I just don't see that in DeChambeau's game. I'm not saying he's a bad golfer or anything like that. He's an incredible golfer, but I just think he's too mechanical for that course.
To your point, just look at the people who have won it. Right. Scheffler, Jon Rahm. Going back to, you don't get more creative than Bubba Watson.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because these people, sure, the Tigers and the Phils, but Adam Scott has won it. Bob Weir has won it. Mike Weir. Bob Weir is the lead, one of the founding members of the Grateful Dead. But Mike Weir has won it. These, Charles Schwartzel, the Danny Willett. That's a really good example, of these people who have won the Masters who are creative. They're not necessarily the long hitters. You got to hit the ball, but if you take a hole like,
Mark O'Meara,
yeah.
I mean,
Mark Calcavecchia, people
guys,
like
they
that
can hit the ball far, but they had control over the game.
If you take a hole like 13, to where if you shape your tee shot correctly, you're gold. You know what I'm saying? But that thing goes straight, and you're in that pine straw, and you're fucked. And you need a miracle like Phil had that one year. Out of the pine.
But I think I've noticed that every Masters, except for maybe this year, and there's probably a couple in there that I'm thinking about, but I'm thinking of every Masters that really meant something. A dude's making a shot out of that pine straw.
Right.
And I mean, Scheffler, I don't know that he had a shot all day that required that type of recovery, but in the Masters in the past that I'm thinking of that everybody's watching, and it is a great golf tournament, someone somewhere is making a save out of some nasty stuff. My point is, I just don't see Bryson DeChambeau doing that.
Yeah, because he's stupid. But the thing I thought was impressive with Scheffler is that he could have very easily, at about hole 14, just said, you know what, I'm just going to par out from here, but he kept his foot on the gas until 17. At 17, he was okay. We're going to start playing this shit safe,
right?
And
17 and 18 are kind of holes that you can. I mean, you can sort of do that on,
But that shot on that shot on 9, man. That one that needed. I thought for sure it was in.
Oh, it almost
and just turned.
Well, see, that's what I'm saying. Is like,
and it's 14. At 14, he put one 5 feet from the cup.
Well, and that is one of those shots. Like, it reminded me of the Tiger Woods shot where on 16. You know what I'm talking about? Like, when he made that shot and had to and got to tap in for birdie, I was like, the tournament's over.
Right.
It's over. Like, he's gonna play like this all day. The man like I said, the man closes a tournament like a freight train. If he's anywhere near the lead, he's gonna win the tournament. And then the only person I've ever talked about that is Tiger Woods. And I'm not saying he's Tiger Woods or anything like that, but he closes a lot like Tiger used to close. And that's something he's been doing for 3 years now. I mean, Scottie Scheffler is the most valid world number 1 we've had in golf in a long time.
So let's just keep him out of Perkins. Keep him away from Perkins.
I don't see him going away. I mean, I think he's, and I love the fact that he's like so unconventional too. Like, there's nobody's going to copy his swing. He's got his own lane. So, he's a good golfer, man. He's a good golfer.
The other cool thing about him is he's a pretty humble fella. I mean, like he's
very humble.
He's just a normal guy. Like off the golf course, he's just kind of a normal fella. You know what I mean? Like he doesn't like the limelight. He's kind of quiet, and it's just an interesting. He's his own guy. He's not like anybody else on the tour.
I like the fact he got back to Texas, took his green jacket into a dive bar.
Right, and that is really cool. That's that's. For him, I think he's going to be the world number 1 for a long time to come. If he keeps playing, if he keeps playing at this level, he's going to be the world number 1 for years to come.
Yeah,
until Charlie Woods takes it over.
Right, and that's 5 years away. So so
that's why I just don't see anybody challenging him.
Charlie Woods.
Well, but
the only person that there's a couple young guys that if they pull their stuff together, then sure, but. Like I said, you're watching him play by hole 9, even though it was close, even though the tournament was tied at the time, even after he tapped that in for birdie, it was still tied. I was like, this tournament's over because he wasn't missing a shot, even off the tee, and he was never in trouble. The whole day he was never in trouble. If you can do that in the PGA Tour, man.
Well, it was probably since Tiger, the last one that he was the favorite and won.
Right.
So, Vegas isn't liking it too much, but that's okay.
It doesn't bother me.
If you look at it this way too, he's won 3 of his last 4 starts.
Right.
Yeah.
It does make golf a little more boring. Yeah. You know what I mean? It makes it a little more boring.
But we never said that though when Tiger's winning every other fucking week.
Yeah, but he's just not as demonstrative, if that's the right term, as Tiger was. When
he's not as electric.
Right. But you watch him, and that's kind of what I'm saying. Is he's kind of this bland guy. He goes out there, plays great golf, but there's really nothing super exciting about the way he plays. He just hits the ball really far, straight, soft. He can think a little bit around the greens, and he can putt. Is he as exciting as Tiger Woods? No, we're not getting the fist pumps. We're not getting the I'm going to follow the ball into the hole. We're not getting the I'm down by 3 strokes, but I'm going to win. Although he might do that,
right?
But I'm going to close and I'm going to win this tournament. Type of things. He doesn't have to do that because he's always ahead.
Yeah, no, you're right. It's good.
He kind of reminds me of the guy that wins your club championship every year.
Right. No one's ever going to beat him, right?
Yeah. He's the nice guy. He'll have a beer with you afterwards. If you get paired up with him at a practice round, he's not going to be the guy that tells you, hey, you should do it like this. He's just going to play his game and go through. He's just better than you.
Yeah.
You know,
he's no Shooter McGavin.
That's a great analogy. Yeah. You guys keeping track of the NBA playoffs?
No.
I know the answer is probably no, but there is in the West.
I would
right
rather relace all of my fucking shoes.
Yeah. But anyway, so like the Lakers are playing a play-in game right now. It's
the
winner
fact
take all.
that we have a play-in game in the NBA is dumb.
I think it makes it kind of exciting, but that's me. I mean, they need something, right? I mean, nobody's watching the NBA. They need something to boost ratings, but like
when you have to have a gimmick like that in order
Right.
to get fans back, something's wrong with the league.
You want to know a gimmick? Here's a fucking gimmick. They're going to draft a guy into the NBA named Bronny James because of his fucking last name. Have you seen this guy's fucking numbers? Okay? If his last name isn't James, this motherfucker's bagging groceries.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Have you watched him play?
I saw the 4.8 rebounds average over the games that he played, which is not very good.
I watched him play.
Okay.
And he looked like he didn't look like he didn't belong. I'll just say that. Now, was he LeBron James? No. I mean, like he wasn't dominating anything, but he didn't look lost on the court or anything. He just looked like your average college player. That's what he was.
Yeah. They better keep the defibrillator close.
I'm sure they do. But
yeah, you know.
Speaking of college sports, a headline went through ESPN today, and I think it just kind of went unnoticed. But the University of Michigan got fined and put on probation today for their football program and their shenanigans with Jim Harbaugh.
That's interesting. A fucking shocker.
Interesting to note that they knew that all this stuff was going on and still allowed them to play in the NCAA playoff and didn't allow Florida State. So, you know what I mean? Like, is that not controversial? I mean, they knew what was going on and they let them just play through the playoffs and win the national title. No one said a thing. Is that not controversial?
They would have let Alabama do the same thing.
Yeah. Oh, I know, yeah. but is that not controversial? I mean, that has to be controversial.
If this doesn't prove to you that the NCAA does not need to be, regulating college football, and that it needs for years it needs a separate entity other than the NCAA that simply doesn't know what they're doing. You know, right. they should get the commissioner of the WNBA. You know, they ain't got shit to do.
I read some things. I read some of the charges, the things that they violated. I'm like, how's that a violation? Like that's they said that they had too many coaches. That was one of the violations, and that they were coaching kids at the wrong time. And that's a violation. And I'm like,
what's the right time?
I mean, I know that there's time limits to which you can coach these kids. You know, there are still student athletes. I get it. But once they started getting paid, I mean, what rules are we following now? I mean,
well, if they're getting paid, then and they're going to do that shit, we need a collective bargaining agreement. We need a union for the fucking players.
Hey, look, I'm not disagreeing. I'm not disagreeing with that.
Every other professional sport. I mean,
they're not getting paid by the universities, but they kind of are. I mean, we've had this discussion before. They're not getting paid a salary by the teams they're playing for, even though they're getting paid to play. Okay, this is. I don't see NIL as real money. Do you? I mean, like,
well, I mean, Graham Mertz, who just got fucking paid for by a car dealership in Gainesville to be their spokesperson. I bet you he thinks it's fucking real.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm not saying
in his bank
like
account.
I'm not saying the money's not real. I'm just saying it's like, okay, well, how many people across the country are saying, "Oh, who's Graham Mertz?" I mean, like we all know because we're from Florida, but anybody else outside of Florida going to care who Graham Mertz is?
You know the difference between Graham Mertz and God is?
I have there's a few, but go ahead.
That's a trick question. Graham Mertz is God.
Okay. I'm being a little bit facetious. I mean, but my question is, how do you collectively bargain NIL money? You just can't do it. They're not being paid a set salary schedule by the school that they're going to. So you can't regulate the money that's coming in for them unless it's linked to the school. So if the school's paying them a salary, sure, then you can collectively bargain it. But if it's NIL money, they can go out and get whatever money they want.
Well, like I said, I think eventually NIL money is going to be tied to some kind of incentives or some kind of, there's going to be, you're only going to get this money if you make the playoff, if this something or something is going to happen.
Or if you stay at the school for all 4 years or see the transfer portal, in my opinion, that's what's got to change. It's not the NIL money. It's the transfer portal. That's how you ensure that you keep your athletes on your team. But going back to the University of Michigan, I just thought it was an interesting. I mean, like, it's an interesting headline that the NCAA thinks it's relevant enough. So relevant, in fact, that they knew of these infractions since who knows how long, and they still allowed the University of Michigan to play in the playoffs. So how powerful of an entity are they?
Apparently, they don't think it's that big of a deal.
Well, I mean, it's a big deal if it's recruiting infractions. And those are the players he recruited during the time frame they're saying those infractions occurred are playing on the team now. So you tell me. I mean,
I don't think he gives a fuck because he's in LA.
No, that's the other thing that's kind of funny about it is, oh well, he leaves before all these infractions. Kind of pulled a Pete Carroll there, didn't he?
Yeah. So I don't think anything's ever going to come of it, but
I think they call it the pulling the John Calipari.
Right. Well, no, something came of it. They all got University of Michigan got a huge fine. They're on probation for 3 years. There's multiple different things that they have to do in order to pay for that stuff. For those
did they get a bowl ban?
No, they didn't get a bowl ban.
So they can still play in the playoffs.
They're going to still play in the playoffs. Yeah. So what I'm saying is the NCAA is toothless. Like they're it's arbitrary. It doesn't matter. So what that means is Michigan go right back out and do whatever they want. Oh, I'll pay the fine. No big deal. Oh, we're going to be on probation. Okay. You didn't even limit our scholarships. So So what is it that we care about? That doesn't change a thing what they just did. And so my point in saying all that is the NCAA is almost to the point where it's just completely irrelevant to what's going to happen in college football.
Yeah. Speaking of things that are irrelevant, I think we're missing a big story that happened this last week.
Yeah.
Take a stab at it.
Oh my God. You beat me to it. Did you know that OJ was $114 million in debt?
Well, are you counting his you counting what he owed to the Goldmans and the Browns?
There was an article that says basically he died, $114 million in debt.
That's because he still owed
the
Goldmans and the Browns for the wrongful
death. I think with the interest is almost $100 million. I mean, I know back when they won the civil judgment, it was like 30-something million, but I think he hadn't paid a fucking dime.
No.
So once he died, so kind of in that remembrance of that event, I went back and I haven't finished it yet, but I started watching the OJ documentary on ESPN Plus.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I forgot how good that documentary was, but I also forgot how insane that trial was. Okay. I mean, I remember in school they were doing shot by shot takes on that trial, and then when they came out with the verdict, we were all just shocked.
Yeah.
I'll tell you this, and not to get too much, but I've watched that documentary probably 5 times. Right?
Yeah, it's great. It's a great.
I was enthralled because that was like that happened a month. The white Bronco chase happened 1 month after I graduated high school, and in 1994, and I kind of look at that as like the first kind of trial that I kind of like, looked at and knew the names of the players because it was on every channel every day. I mean, it took the place of soap operas,
right?
And in my opinion, the best lawyer out of that group, the guy that got him off, was not Johnny Cochran. He was just the head figure. It was not Robert Shapiro. It was a guy named Barry Scheck, who was actually the guy who got the blood evidence thrown out of court.
Which is absolutely ridiculous.
Because that evidence stays in, and OJ's in jail.
Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how long it doesn't matter how many times you call Furman a racist, right?
Yeah, That stays in. I mean, and you can everybody's got their own personal opinion. Lord, I have mine. I'm just saying there was blood in his fucking car that was not anywhere near the crime scene. That's all I'm saying.
And the part that made me, I think, the most ridiculous part of the interview on that was they're sitting with one of the jurors that was on the trial, right? And they're saying, okay, well, the juror says 90% of us knew that he did it, and we didn't care.
Right.
And I was like, that is astounding. That is just astounding. That
just because of the fear stardom that he got away with it.
No, it had to do with racism. It had to do with the race riots and stuff like that.
Well, the Rodney King thing that happened a year before it, 2 years before it, that didn't help. I mean, it was basically the way I view it, and the way I saw the same documentary, Babes, is the way that I view it is that it was like payback.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what it was. And I, when they're talking to some of the guys who were they're all, a lot of them were preachers and pastors, and they didn't even care that they knew he was guilty, but they didn't even care. They were like, okay, we're going to use OJ to push our agenda, which is, I mean, the agenda is not bad. I mean, the agenda is, hey, we need to make things right with the LAPD, and we brought up what had happened in the previous 2 years, but it was kind of a big middle finger to to the world. Like, we're sick of the way we're being treated. We don't care if this man killed 2 people. We're going to set him free just to show everybody that the justice system's screwed up, which I thought was really sad, because if you were a family member of the 2 people who were murdered, that is shocking, right?
There's a couple things in this thing that bother me. Okay, number one, and may he rest in peace, but you can't tell me that Ron Goldman was there as a friend. Okay, let's just call it what it is. They were fucking. Okay, I mean, there was like candles lit and all this okay, they were fucking. All right, and number 2 is, you remember that guy named Kato Kalin?
Yeah.
You can't tell me he didn't hear shit. Give me a fucking break, okay?
Yeah. Well, did anybody know who Kato Kalin was before that trial?
No.
And that guy rode that fame. I mean, everybody still talks about him, right? Everybody knows who that man is.
He was on TikTok the other day giving his recollection of OJ.
Yeah.
And all this, and I guarantee you on ESPN and on I don't think it's on Netflix anymore, but it's on Hulu. The People versus OJ Simpson, the show.
Yeah.
I bet you that's getting because like my kids, my kids were just like, did he really kill those people? And I'm like, my answer is, well, everybody has their own opinion, but I mean, technically he was acquitted for it. And if you listen to the Stupid History Minute special report that I put out the day that he died, it said something along those lines.
Yeah.
Indeed, he was acquitted, but then he was found guilty.
Says if it don't fit
in 2 different trials.
He was found liable. Yes.
Yeah. Which I mean, that tells you something. I don't know what it tells you, but it tells you something.
Which St. Joe though, for him to be in debt that much, I mean, he was playing some pretty fucking nice golf courses, man. Because you know who followed the guy on Twitter? This guy right here for just pure fucking entertainment. Because I like to read the comments. Because if we remember stupid tweet of the week, it's not always the tweet. It's the kind of replies.
Yeah,
and I mean he was playing some pretty nice fucking golf courses, so he must have gotten comped a lot.
Yeah,
if he was in debt that much.
Well, I mean, I think a lot of people. It's OJ. I mean, I think. There's a lot to be said about, I want to say, childhood heroes. So a lot of things, and they're like, hey, it's OJ. But I don't know, man. I mean, it's an interesting thing. Here's my thought to be like, okay, we're all gonna watch the Hall of Fame game next year, or we're gonna watch whatever. Is he gonna be in there? Are they going to give him a moment to say in memorandum or whatever? Is OJ going to show up in there?
Well, it's funny that you should say that, because do you remember the late, great Norm Macdonald?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So once upon a time, this story time, Kev. Once upon a time, he hosted a very early edition of a award show called the ESPYs.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And this was so long ago that, are you familiar with a defensive back that played in the NFL for years named Charles Woodson?
Yeah.
Okay, so he won the Heisman instead of Peyton Manning back in 1997. Right. Okay. And Norm Macdonald said, Charles Woodson, Heisman Trophy winner, great job. Forever will you be known as Charles Woodson, Heisman Trophy winner, and that's something they can never take away from you. And then he paused and he said, unless you kill your ex-wife and a waiter.
Oh, God. That's horrible.
That was at the ESPYs?
At the ESPYs.
That's hilarious. Oh, God.
And don't believe me? You can YouTube it. Norm Macdonald, OJ at the ESPYs.
Didn't Norm Macdonald have like a 10-minute spiel on SNL about that?
Norm Macdonald got fired from SNL because he wouldn't let the OJ thing go. I don't know if you remember, but he was doing Weekend Update, the news program in the middle of the show, and for weeks he would do the entire thing on, everything was OJ's fault. He'd be talking about the Pope, bam, OJ, and I mean, if you talk about beating a horse to death,
wow,
but it was funny. It was funny. Really funny. Norm Macdonald is one of those comics that is very acquired taste. He's very dry, and you either love him or you hate him, but he's widely considered one of the greatest comics of all time.
He's hilarious.
And,
I think he's funny.
I mean, I think he's a genius,
I do not think that there will be any kind of, I think for the Football Hall of Fame, there might be. But I just don't think there would be any other kind of, okay, we're not going to give him his moment, because that's what they would, people would want. But I don't think we're going to see anything about it.
Here's the thing. I think the same thing of OJ as I do of Pete Rose. The Hall of Fame is for what happens on the field.
Yeah. I'm with you 100%. I mean,
if it's good for the goose, it's good for the murderer,
I mean,
so I mean, what happened on the field? He was a hell of a running back. First 2,000-yard rusher. I mean, how many people have rushed for over 2,000 yards?
Not very many.
Yeah,
maybe two.
Have there been five? There hasn't been five, right?
No.
Dickerson, OJ, I think.
The guy for the Broncos did it twice.
Marshall Faulk, did Marshall Faulk do it?
Antonio Davis did it twice for Denver.
You mean Terrell Davis?
That's it. Sorry, not Antonio. Terrell Davis. Yeah. Terrell Davis. Is it? No, it's not. Is it Terrell Davis? Yeah.
It's Terrell Owens. That's the Terrell. Wasn't there a Jamal Lewis guy for the Ravens?
He might have gone over.
Didn't he go over 2,000?
Adrian Peterson might have had a 2,000.
Maybe. Yeah.
And
so
McCaffrey just had one.
Yeah. Maybe there's 5 or 6, but yeah.
But it's a unique fraternity.
Yeah.
It's a small fraternity. So I kind of think of OJ, while not the most good of people, I think he may be chilling with Hitler right now. You know, I mean, seriously, you
Yeah.
know, you know, a lot of people. I had a lot of comments the day that he died, and I did get a DM or two saying that especially when I put out the Stupid History Minute special report, that do you think it's cool to make fun of somebody that died? And my response was, do you think it was cool that he killed two people? You know, I mean,
Yeah. Well, you know, it's yeah, it is what I thought it was. Yeah, it's it happens. I guess it can happen to everybody. So here's a good question for you guys. Do you think that that's probably one of the most memorable stories of your, I don't want to, of your, I guess your life so far? I mean, that obviously sports wise, I think maybe.
I think sports trials, that or the Ray Caruth deal. You know, I don't know
or
if
Ray Lewis.
Okay.
There was a
Okay.
deal with Ray Lewis too, right?
right. I think overall stories in my lifetime, probably the biggest. I'll go in order. 81 when Reagan was shot, it's pretty big. 86 when the Challenger blew up. Definitely 94 with this. But I don't think you get bigger than September 11th.
Right.
Sure.
So there's only a couple events in my lifetime that I remember clearly. Okay, and I remember that we were upset in '94 because we were trying to. What was it? The Bulls. We were trying to watch the Bulls.
It was the Rockets. It was the Rockets and the
Oh
Knicks.
yeah, that's right.
It was the Rockets and because '94 was one of the years that Jordan was playing baseball.
I remember those teams. Yeah. Hakeem Olajuwon. It was one of those 2 years that Houston won the title, right? And so
yeah, it was. I believe it was the Eastern Conference Finals, the Knicks and the Rockets. No, that wouldn't have been right.
All I remember is we're watching basketball because we're a basketball family, and suddenly we're watching a white Bronco, and not able to see basketball, and we were upset. So, but then I'll remember watching the most ridiculous police chase I've ever. I mean, they weren't chasing him; they were just I don't know what they were doing. But in the documentary, they're like, "Oh, I guess we're just accompanying him until he stopped." Yeah. But
that's I mean, I can. Yeah,
I can remember where I was and exactly what I was doing when I was watching it happen. And then when they had the verdict, I remember what class I was in.
Yeah, you're right. I think you're right with the other ones, Kev. Is your Reagan is a good one, Challenger. The other one, I mean, I guess everybody was on pins and needles is the Casey Anthony trial. I mean, it's not related to sports, but I mean, that was another.
There's another dumb hooker that's fucking guilty of shit.
So that's kind of another like what happened here type thing. I mean, there's a couple, maybe one-offs here and there type thing, but I mean, those are like the major things that I could think where people were literally tuned in to be like, what's going on, and maybe there might be a death of, well, I guess death of Prince, death of Michael Jackson, a couple things like that, but that I can almost remember where I heard it and be like, this is what I was doing.
Do you know whose death, like a celebrity death that I remember exactly where I was when I heard it because it hurt me so deeply, was the death of Robin Williams?
Oh, I thought you were going to say Bob Saget.
No, I mean, the death of Robin Williams, I remember exactly where I was. I was in the car when I heard it on the radio.
Yeah.
And
what year was what year's the guy from the Beatles shot?
Who, John Lennon? That was 1980.
Yeah, I couldn't remember. I just remember the reports that came out, later in like documentaries and stuff like that. I figured that would be a penultimate moment.
Princess Diana. There was
that was one.
Yeah.
I would also say Michael Jordan's father being murdered.
Yeah, I think that was an interesting one too. So there's a couple of like major stories I think people come up with and be like, okay, here's, obviously but I think you're right. I think 9/11 obviously tops.
Yeah.
I think tops everything.
I'll never
be like
that day.
Here we go. And how can it not? And I think then to follow it up, I think the other thing that really that I can vividly see is George Bush throwing the first pitch.
Yes.
Which again, I have to give ESPN, they do some great shows that cover these 30 for 30s or these 60s or whatever they call them. They have some fantastic shows that they come out that cover all these events that we talk about, which is just
I'll tell you, with the integration of sports into society, there have been a lot of times where we have had a national tragedy that has been saved by sports. 9/11 was one of them with the World Series. I mean, that really brought everybody, you can walk together. And if you ever see the documentary of him throwing that first pitch and what he went through beforehand, and suiting up with the bulletproof vest. I mean, and Derek Jeter said something funny to him. He's like, "Hey, Prez," he's like, "You got to throw it from the mound or they're gonna boo you."
Yeah, don't short it.
He's like, you can't throw it from in front of the mound, because that's where he was gonna go, was right in front of the mound. And he's like, not only do they know you're the president, but they also know that you used to own a Major League Baseball team. So you're kind of a baseball guy. You got to throw it from the rubber, And he did, and he threw a fucking strike.
He threw a great pitch.
It's funny is we needed him to throw a strike. That's what, I mean, the only other world event that I can think of that might have been saved by sport was the earthquake during the World Series.
The Oakland A's.
Oakland versus San Francisco, 1989.
That was a huge natural disaster.
Actually, my uncle, who recently just passed away, was a chef in a restaurant in San Francisco at the time, and was actually at that World Series.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Speaking of another event, maybe you guys don't remember it as well, just because it wasn't something that happened.
How we gonna not remember it? We older than you.
No, I mean, not saying because it's old, just because it wasn't really reported on that much. Was the giant tornado in Alabama? You guys remember that?
Alabama.
So, there was a tornado that went through Alabama, and I think it was closer to Auburn. And Nick Saban packed up all his players, and they went down and helped with disaster relief.
So I do remember that vaguely, but not as there's two. There's one, obviously one big one that I'm missing that I just spoke about briefly too when I was just there, was the Boston bombing. Gotta remember that one.
I remember that one.
The other one that I think is more related to Auburn was when the idiot poured
poison the trees.
Poison the tree. The Tuberville.
I don't know what you're talking about. That guy's a hero.
Toomer's corner.
That guy's a hero.
Back to the Boston Massacre, I think that was when David Ortiz really solidified himself in Boston folklore. Do you guys remember his speech?
Yeah.
After that, as a player, I think he was a player. He went out there on the field and he said, "This is our fucking city."
Yeah, he's like, "You don't fuck with Boston."
Right, essentially. And the place went nuts when he said that. I mean, absolutely.
And it's basically like Boston strong and the whole thing. And he's like, That's when
you knew everything was going to be okay.
It was. It was just kind of and again, it's just like a whole coming together of sports. And I think, and to further that, there's one that's coming out, which I'm looking for. I will look very forward to, is the story of Stuart Scott. That they've gotten the green light to go on.
I'd say back to the Boston bombing. Those bombers really picked the wrong fucking town to fuck with.
They absolutely did.
I mean, they shut that motherfucker down.
They absolutely
and said,
did.
"We are not doing anything until we find you."
No, I will tell you though that there is and not again just because I was there. If anybody wants to watch an incredible documentary, it's called Boston. It's on Amazon Prime, and it will literally tell you everything that just happened this weekend. And it is a phenomenal documentary, and it tells you a lot of history and everything about it. And it's really, really cool. It's actually about the first marathon after the bombing, and how everybody needs to come up in and everything that happens, and it's really cool, and it's just the fact that you've run through 10 different towns and a bunch of things and what happens. It's pretty cool. But
man, Boston's a very tight knit city. It's kind of like
it was fun.
Like once you've been there, like you understand, like there's something about that town where they freaking come together.
Well, so it's funny.
They really do.
We went to a restaurant, an Italian restaurant, and we walk in and the hotel called and said, "Hey, can we get them in?" And we're like, "Yeah." And we went there and we walk in, the guy's like, "Oh my gosh!" And my kid, he's 6'2", and I walk in and I'm like, "Okay," and I'm like, "Okay," so you sit down, and he's like, "You've never been here before?" And I'm like, "No." And he's like, "Okay, you need to have this. You need to have this." And he's somebody bumps into him and he turns around and he goes, he starts yelling at him. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, this is like Italian,
Right.
And we order the appetizer that the lady told us to get, which was incredible. And then he comes back and he goes, "You didn't get the meatball?" And I'm like, "No, you were told to get this." And he goes, "Oh my God." And he comes around, and he turns the corner, he's got a bunch of meatballs for us. He's like, "You gotta have the meatball." And I'm like, "Okay." So we eat the meatballs, and then we're like, "Okay," and they were grandma's meatballs, they were delicious. We're like, coming back, he's like, "Let me tell you a story about this." And we're family, he comes in,
right.
He's like, "Okay."
Right.
He came and checked on us like 4 or 5 times. He's like, "What do you think about this?" And I'm like, "Oh, it's great." He's like, "Oh, I can do better. I could get the chef to do better if I need to." No, it's good. It's good. It's like, it was just crazy. It was the first time we ever been there. It was awesome. It was great. I love it.
I mean, I know they're rough people. I know people from Boston. They're rough. They can be a rough crew, but when something as big as that bombing happens or anything, I mean, anything that happens in that city,
it was so much
if
fun.
You're from Boston, you're their brother.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It was so much fun.
They might hate each other one day, but if something like that happens, they are together. I mean,
they are, my mother's from Boston.
Yeah.
And they are very outspoken.
Yeah.
They wear their emotions on their sleeve.
Yeah.
And they are fanatical. And you may ask, what are they fanatical about? They are fanatical about everything Boston. Right. You know? So if you want to talk shit about the Red Sox, you better know what you're fucking talking about.
100%.
You know what I'm saying? If you want to, and I think it's not so much that way. I mean, they're used to winning with the Patriots, but I center around the Red Sox because they're used to winning with the Celtics because the Celtics won in the 80s. They're good now. The Bruins, were winners, but the Red Sox sucked for so long and had so many close calls. They were in the ALCS in 86 and 87, and then they were down 3-1. I remember my mother saying that when they were down 3-1 in the 04.
Yeah.
When they were down 3-1 and they won game 5, my mom looked at me and was like, "How dare they win that game?"
They didn't deserve it.
And it was just
it's the hope that kills you, Kev.
Yeah.
Because I've been a Red Sox fan my whole life.
Dude, I'm a fucking Jaguar fan, man. Come on. I mean, dude, let's just not forget the Braves weren't very good in the 80s. They weren't very, but they didn't go 86 years without winning.
It's a little weird. I mean, like, this, Kev, because of where you're from. And, but I have family who, I have family from Boston. I have family who went to school in Boston. My dad went to college in Boston. So did my grandfather, and I'm a 5th generation Red Sox fan. Okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, my great grandfather died before he ever saw him win a World Series. Okay. So this is, I mean, for us, I know what you're saying is it's the hope that kills you, dude.
Dude,
it.
I got a great story for you. If you would, my grandfather, who lived in Boston for years, died in 2004, in April of 2004. Okay, that was before the fall. He never saw it, but I remember in 1996, my father was like, "We're not gonna watch. I'm not watching Game 6 of the World Series." Now, if we remember 1996, the New York Yankees were playing the Atlanta Braves.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm watching because I'm the fan that what you live with the team, you die with the team. You know what I'm saying? You watch. Yeah. But my dad was like, I'm not going to. And he goes, why? He goes, your granddad's not going to either. And I said, why? And he goes, because if he sees Wade Boggs celebrate on that field wearing a Yankee uniform, his head's going to blow up.
Yep.
You know, because that was the ultimate betrayal. Is Wade Boggs
oh my gosh,
going to the New York Yankees. And if you remember some of these players, that 86 team, Wade Boggs, Roger Clemens, Darrell Evans, you know,
they should have won a World Series.
They should have won. But the Mets, I mean, you never bet against the hot team.
Right.
You know, I mean, that Mets team, Dwight Gooden, Darryl Strawberry, Lenny Dykstra, Mookie Wilson, you know, Ray Knight.
Because they were one play away.
Yeah.
They were one play away.
They're one out away.
Yep.
You know, and I mean,
Buckner, right?
it gets through Buckner. It gets through Buckner, you know. One of the great all-time baseball calls by Vince Scully. One of the great calls. But you know, they're fanatical about specifically the Red Sox because they were and they're very protective of that too. And there are people who bequeath their season tickets. Yeah. You know, it's almost like the Packers, you know, to where they will their season tickets to family members.
Yep, 100%.
Yeah, so they don't lose their seats.
It's like it's like I said, David Ortiz in that 04 year against the Yankees went off.
Yeah.
Right? And he is after that, I mean, it's like the players at Boston, like if you're there for multiple years, you're family. I mean, you really are considered family. Like they talk to you from the field like your family. They talk about you like you're their long lost brother. You know what I mean? It's like they talk about these guys like they're on a first name basis, just like you're saying. And I know it's probably true about all sports teams, but when you go to Boston, it is just something. It's different. Just something a little bit different.
Unless you're Wade Boggs, Roger Clemens, or Johnny Damon.
The rest, those guys can go to hell.
Because they went to New York.
Yeah. Jason Titles.
Yeah. I think we can speak for everybody. I can speak for both of you guys and everybody that listens to this program and everybody that breathes air on Earth saying, fuck the Yankees.
Ooh. Well,
I'm not going to argue with you, Kev. Okay. When you were in Boston, St. Joe, when you were in Fenway Park, did they ever start up a chant? The Yankees suck.
They didn't do that. They did start the wave, and then I'll tell you the last story here.
They did Sweet Caroline.
Sweet Caroline. Yeah.
Oh yeah, always. Sweet Caroline. But the funniest thing, and I'll give this advice to anybody, and then I gotta go. I've had a long day. I'm pulling a beeb. I'm tired. I need my glass of milk, and I gotta go.
Right.
But the funniest story, and I'll give some big advice to anybody who's ever thinking about doing this, and this is the reason why. You know, they go around, they have the camera, they show everybody they're dancing, they're doing all kinds of fun stuff. Little kids get up there and they're excited that they're on the Jumbotron or the screen or whatever. They're like, okay, they did it a couple times in between innings. Everything is great. We get to one inning and everything comes on. They playing some noise in the background. I don't know what's going on there. Somebody could be dying, but that's okay. We're getting through there, and they started playing the like I just called to say I love you or whatever, and I didn't really think much of it. And I'm like, okay. Well, then they get to the last person, and the guy starts pointing at the screen, and they show they're just dead set on the girl. Well, he pops out, gets down on one knee, and proposes. And
please tell me she said no.
It's right at the end of the inning, and she does the old nope. And then they cut away to the inning, and we're like, what? And everybody's like, oh my God. And so they leave like a cliffhanger. Like, did she really just say no? She's like looking at him like, nope. She's shaking her head, and he's like all happy and everything. And I said, that's it. That is why you never, ever do anything on the big screen, embarrassing or anything. And I'm like, I had that happen to one of my friends, and she's like, nope, left the park, did everything. And I'm like, no, don't do anything. So then we're like, oh my God, what happened? And then all of a sudden we hear a big, huge cheer. And we're like, well, maybe. And they pan back to her and she's got the ring on. And I'm like, oh my God. But I'm telling you, you do have the chance that it's going to go wrong.
Here's a parting wisdom from the Keb. Okay. If you're out there and you're thinking of proposing marriage to somebody, number one, we need to have a discussion, okay? But number two, don't ask the question until you are 100% that you know the fucking answer.
That's exactly right. And don't do
saying?
It on a big screen, man. I mean, that's the last thing that somebody wants. I mean,
well, they might be like, they might be lifelong Red Sox fans,
it could be, but I thought it was funny because look, she was in pure shock, like, you idiot. And it was funny. The finger, the whole shake you never had, it was funny. And we were all like,
that's on the camera.
I'm like, right, run, dude. There's still time. There's still get the money back. It was so funny.
That's a good story. On that note, gentlemen, why don't we wrap it up here and tell everybody to go see our friends over at unfpod.com and part of the Unfiltered Studios podcast network. We want to say hello to Dr. Jen. And Pick Your Poison. She joined us this week, and go check out hers, and go check. Every time I listen to That Florida Feeling, that she says a stupid history minute, so I'm going to return the favor and say go listen to That Florida Feeling, as well as Pedals of Support, Nailed It, Finding Your Way, Movies Lovers Unite, not naming them all, Sleepy G. Okay. So we'll get everybody on. Yeah, we'll get everybody next week. So go check those guys out. Next week coming up, there's no major sporting events this week. So next week is baseball time, people.
Oh boy,
it's fucking baseball time. Baseball is in the forefront. I've been waiting patiently.
The NBA playoffs are started.
Fuck the NBA playoffs. So
it's when I start paying attention.
Okay. So we'll get into maybe it was baseball, but maybe some NBA playoffs, and find out if the Billy Donovan-led Chicago Bulls are going to do anything this year. Probably not, but the Orlando Magic, they're in the mix.
Yeah.
The Miami Heat, they're in the mix.
Yeah.
The Golden State Warriors, don't know if they're in the mix.
My Oklahoma City Thunder are the number one team in the West.
Thunder.
Okay, all right.
Feel the thunder. Lightning and the thunder. All right, so go check all those guys out. So for St. Joe, who's tired, for the Beebs, who is awake, we're shocked.
Surprisingly vivacious.
Yeah, surprisingly awake. My name is the Kev. We'll catch you guys next week.
Catch you on the flippity flop.